And then we have Mr. Vessel Miller, who refuses to complete the questionnaire, wanted to take that up with you.
Okay. And everybody else that is here, it was for failure.
It's for the failure to appear, correct?
Okay. And not for the questionnaire part.
Correct.
Okay. And of the folks that are here, how many of them responded based on personal?
Four of the for the appearance.
Yeah, who had to be of the people?
Personal
that
personal service was the Stephanie Miller, and then all your questionnaires. So the ones for June were just done by mail.
Okay, gotcha. All right, Mr. Miller?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you tell me why you don't think you should fill out the questionnaire?
Currently, we are currently Michigan Office of Civil Rights is investigating both the school and the Sheriff's Department and CPS for improprieties that have happened. It's docket number 25-100. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to get into the specifics of this at this time, but at this point, I am slightly biased towards agents of the county. In 2020, Ms. Cox my daughter was raped in 2019. In 2020, Ms. Cox failed to provide a compelling case to secure a conviction. So I don't believe that I could be an objectionable juror at this point.
Okay. So I get that if it was a criminal case where the government was involved.
It is an abuse case.
Yeah. So that's not the only kind of trial that we ask jurors to serve on, though.
Right, but I've seen failures in this court through my daughter, through a criminal case, and I'm in the middle of a civil case in which I have become quite biased because CPS and the Sheriff's Department have been used retaliatory against us, circumventing our Fourth Amendment rights, circumventing our First Amendment rights. And this is using agents of the county. And I do not believe that I could be objectionable at this time.
Okay. And again, I get that if it involves, county officials and so forth. But again, not every case that we ask jurors to sit on has anything to do with the county or the government or anything else. Sometimes it's contractual disputes between parties.
And that is another issue that I'm having.
Let me finish telling you before you give me before you try to cover every single possible thing that you would have to serve as a juror on. There are disputes over contracts. If there's an accident or medical malpractice, there's disputes over damages. So we ask jurors to decide liability, in other words, whether someone is at fault for an injury or for breaching a contract, and then what the damages should be for that. And so none of what you're telling me would be a basis for you to not be able to sit as a juror in one of those cases.
Also, MCR, Michigan Office of Civil Rights, is compelling us to go through civil mediation prior to any filings with the in federal court, because part of our argument is that they failed contract law of upholding a IEP.
Okay, so again, that would have no bearing on your ability to be fair to two private citizens who have a dispute amongst themselves that the government's not involved. So,
but can the jury, when jurors are called, is it called by numbers to fill in the place? And then I would be, once again, if it's a criminal case or a civil case involving the Sheriff's Department, I'm not going to be an object.
Yeah, so I don't know what kind of case you would be called on, and jurors are picked at random. So again, there's no reason why you shouldn't fill out the questionnaire and be called to jury service. And if you're called up to the jury box in a case like that, you can tell the lawyers why you think you would be biased, and and you may be excused, but
I'm pre-biased, Your Honor. I've become biased. Once this is settled, I would like to sell my house in Crawford County and be done.
yeah, none of that is a reason for you to be excused from appearing and explaining why you're biased to the lawyers. And depending on the kind of case, they may excuse you, but depending on the kind of case, they may not. So what you're telling me is not a reason for you to be excused from jury service in general, or a reason for you to not fill out the questionnaire. So I am going to ask that you do that before you leave today.
I will fill it out, but I will write objection on all of the answers.
Okay, you need to fill out the information that's requested. You can't just write in objection for every answer. You need to put the information that's requested on there.
All right, Your Honor, you have a wonderful day. I'll fill this out.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Does anybody else have any questions about your service as jurors, or your need to fill out any questionnaire? So, for your, I kind of already explained it to Mr. Besselmiller. I'm sure you've just heard what I just said, but jury duty is a very important part of the court. It's one of the few civic duties that members of our society are asked to perform, are obligated to perform. It's an important part of the court because for all the complaints and knocks that our system gets, it's the best in the world when it comes at least to criminal cases, because in other countries and under other systems, if the government or a prosecutor or the police think that you're guilty of a crime, all they have to do is make that allegation. In our country, in order for you to be guilty, the state or the police or the prosecutor have to convince 12 of that person's fellow citizens that they're guilty. And if they can't do that, then that person is not guilty. And as jurors, you have the ability and the obligation to be a check on the government, to say to the government, if you can't prove that my fellow citizen is guilty of this crime, then I'm going to say not guilty, and you cannot take away that person's liberty. So acting as a juror is an important way that you can participate in the government, an important way that you can make the government do their job, and to protect yourself and your fellow citizens from overreach. So in the criminal context, it's incredibly important. In the civil context, it's also important because, in medieval times and before that, when citizens had disputes, they dueled each other and shot at each other, or they fought with swords or whatever it was. Now we have a system where if you have a dispute with your neighbor over something, or somebody wrongs you in some way, you don't resort to physical violence. You sue them, you come to court, and you ask jurors to find that that person is responsible for the injury to you and to award you damages. So in the civil context, jurors provide a peaceful way for all of us to resolve our disputes amongst each other. So it's incredibly important in the civil context as well. So I say all that because I want each of you to know that we're not just making you come in here because we don't like that you didn't fill out the questionnaire. We're making you come in here because you need to understand that this is an important duty that makes a difference to all of us in our community, including yourselves. And that's why we're forcing you to come in here. We did make efforts to get all of you to come in without having to be personally served. For whatever reason, that didn't happen. So the county did have to expend resources to personally serve you, to have you come in. So for that, we're going to ask you to reimburse $25 to the clerk's office for the cost of having the personal service carried out. So anybody who was personally served needs to make arrangements to pay that.